Sagittarius, August 24th carries a very revealing energy around you. There is a conversation happening about you, and something that was never supposed to come out may suddenly be exposed. Someone could say something without realizing the impact of their words, and in that moment, the entire atmosphere changes. It is almost as if one small comment reveals a much bigger truth that several people have been quietly carrying. Someone may mention your name, bring up something about your past, or make a comment about the way you have changed. But what they reveal may not actually be something negative about you. Instead, it may expose just how closely certain people have been paying attention to you. They may realize that they never understood you as well as they thought they did. The energy around August 24th suggests that somebody may finally admit something that others in the group were only thinking. Perhaps they have been trying to understand why you became quieter, more private, or more distant. They may have noticed that you stopped explaining yourself, stopped seeking their approval, and stopped giving them access to every part of your life. And that realization could surprise them, because there may have been an old story about you that certain people created in their minds. They may have convinced themselves that they knew exactly who you were. They may have described your personality, your choices, and your intentions according to their own assumptions. But now that you have changed, that old story no longer makes sense. Someone could suddenly say, in one way or another, "We don't really know this person," and that sentence could change everything. Sagittarius, the important part is that you do not need to prove anything. You do not need to return to an old situation just to explain yourself. You do not need to convince anyone that you have changed. Your actions have already spoken for you. There is a strong feeling here that you have become much more selective about who gets access to your energy. Maybe there was a time when you explained yourself too much. Maybe you gave people too many chances. Maybe you tried to keep everyone happy even when it cost you your own peace. But that version of you is changing. You can still be kind. You can still be caring. You can still have a generous heart. But you are learning that kindness does not mean allowing everyone unlimited access to you. And that is exactly what some people may be noticing around August 24th. They may be looking at you and realizing, this person is different now. Your silence may have been misunderstood as weakness. Your distance may have been interpreted as defeat. But the truth could be completely different. You may have stepped away because you finally understood what was good for you and what was not. You chose peace. You chose yourself. You chose to move forward. And now people who were familiar with the old version of you may not know how to respond to the person you are becoming. This is where the energy becomes especially interesting. Someone may have believed they could predict your reactions. They may have thought they knew what would make you angry, what would make you come back, or what would make you seek their approval. But now they may realize that they cannot predict you anymore. You are not chasing. You are not begging to be included. You are not trying to force yourself into anyone's circle. You are simply building your own life. And Sagittarius, that can be incredibly powerful. There is also a strong symbolic feeling around a closed door. Imagine a door from your past closing behind you. You are not standing there trying to reopen it. Instead, you are carrying keys to completely different doors. That is the energy around August 24th. You have possibilities ahead of you that people from your past may not even be able to see yet. They do not know where you are going. They do not know what you are building. They do not know how far you can go. And perhaps that uncertainty is exactly what makes them curious. The more you move forward, the less they understand about your life. But you do not have to give them answers. Let them wonder. Let them realize that their old assumptions about you were incomplete. There is another important message here, Sagittarius. Someone may have mistaken your softness for weakness. They may have looked at your kindness and assumed you could always be persuaded. They may have believed that because you cared, you would always return. They may have assumed that because you were quiet, you had nothing to say. But your silence may have been your strength. Sometimes stepping away is not giving up. Sometimes stepping away is how you regain your clarity. And that seems to be one of the biggest themes around you on August 24th. You are becoming harder to manipulate because you understand yourself better. You are becoming harder to provoke because you value your peace. You are becoming harder to control because you are no longer depending on other people's approval. And this could be exactly what someone accidentally reveals when your name comes up in conversation. They might mention that you have changed. They might say that you seem calmer. They might admit that you are doing better than expected. They might reveal that they have been watching from a distance and wondering what happened to the old version of you. And suddenly, other people may begin reconsidering everything they previously believed. They may remember conversations they had about you. They may reconsider judgments they made. They may realize that perhaps they misunderstood your silence. Perhaps they misunderstood your decision to walk away. Perhaps they misunderstood your independence. What they once called weakness may actually have been discernment. What they called distance may actually have been boundaries. What they called being difficult to understand may simply have been you refusing to reveal everything about yourself. And now they may finally understand that they never had the complete picture. Sagittarius, you are not required to make that picture clearer for them. You are allowed to keep parts of yourself private. You are allowed to move differently. You are allowed to outgrow people. You are allowed to change your mind. You are allowed to close doors that no longer belong in your future. And you are allowed to continue without announcing every step you take. There is a strong sense that your next chapter does not need everyone's approval. In fact, August 24th may remind you that your path is yours. Not everyone will understand it. Not everyone will support it. Not everyone needs to. You are becoming more comfortable with your own decisions, and that inner confidence is something people can notice without you saying a word. The number 717 may also stand out symbolically around this reading. It represents new beginnings, inner direction, and moving forward with greater confidence. If you keep noticing repeating numbers or meaningful signs, use them as reminders to pause, reflect, and trust your own judgment rather than looking for permission from others. Another number connected to this energy is 414, which can symbolize stability, protection, and rebuilding your foundation. And that is exactly what seems to be happening in your life. The old structure is changing. The old relationships are changing. Your expectations are changing. Most importantly, your relationship with yourself is changing. You are building something stronger. Think about a house with a foundation that has become stronger over time. Someone may have tried to shake it, criticize it, or convince you that it could never stand. But it remains standing. That is you. You may have experienced moments when you questioned yourself, but you kept going. You may have walked away from situations that no longer felt right, and now you are beginning to understand why. There is wisdom in knowing when to stay and when to leave. There is strength in knowing when to speak and when silence says enough. And there is power in refusing to become the person other people expect you to be. The imagery around this reading also carries the energy of an owl. Wisdom, observation, and seeing what others overlook. You may be developing a much sharper sense of who deserves your trust. You notice things differently now. You listen to people's words, but you also pay attention to their actions. You recognize when something feels inconsistent. You recognize when someone is being genuine and when something does not add up. And your intuition may be stronger because you have learned from experience. There is also an image of a black panther connected to your energy. A black panther does not need to announce its strength. It does not need to convince anyone that it is powerful. It simply moves with confidence. That is the message for you. You do not have to prove how much you have grown. You do not have to announce your transformation. You do not have to tell everyone what you have learned. Your life will demonstrate it. Someone may also have expected you to react to something. They may have expected you to defend yourself, explain yourself, or return to an old situation. But you may surprise them by doing absolutely none of those things. You simply continue forward. And that can be more powerful than any explanation. If someone has been holding onto an outdated version of you, let them hold on to it. You are not responsible for updating their perception. You are responsible for building the life you want. There may also be a connection here to someone who once wanted to remain close to you but could not accept the boundaries you eventually created. This does not necessarily have to be romantic. Could involve friendship, family, work, or another important connection. The key message is that you chose yourself when something no longer felt right. And now someone may finally understand why. They may realize that your departure was not an emotional reaction. It was a decision. You were protecting your peace. You were finding yourself again. You were becoming independent from a dynamic that no longer served you. That is why the energy around August 24th feels like a revelation. One small comment could expose a much bigger realization. They were looking at the wrong version of you. The person they thought they knew may no longer exist. And the person you are becoming cannot be controlled by old expectations. There is also a message here about not feeding unnecessary drama. If someone is talking about you, you do not have to respond to every rumor. If someone misunderstands you, you do not have to chase them down and correct every assumption. Sometimes the strongest response is continuing to live your life. Keep your focus on what is real, your goals, your relationships, your peace, your future, your growth. Because while other people may spend time discussing who you used to be, you are busy becoming someone new. And eventually, their old story loses its power because reality becomes impossible to ignore. Sagittarius, August 24th may therefore mark a moment when you realize just how much you have changed. You are not the same person who once tolerated everything. You are not the same person who needed everyone to understand you. You are not the same person who felt responsible for keeping everyone comfortable. You have learned boundaries. You have learned discernment. You have learned that walking away can sometimes be an act of self-respect. And perhaps the most important realization is this: you do not need to be understood by everyone in order to know who you are. Your path does not require unanimous approval. You are allowed to be a trailblazer. You are allowed to take a different road. You are allowed to build something that other people cannot yet understand. So if a conversation happens around you on August 24th, remember this: do not let someone else's words pull you backward. If the truth comes out, let it come out. If someone finally realizes they misunderstood you, let them realize it. If someone recognizes your growth, you do not need to convince them. And if someone remains committed to an old version of you, that is their choice. Your job is to keep moving. The old door is closed. The new doors are waiting. You have more possibilities ahead than you realize, and the people who only knew your past cannot possibly know everything about your future. So Sagittarius, protect your peace. Protect your boundaries. Keep your heart kind, but keep your standards strong. Do not chase people who chose to misunderstand you. Do not return to places you have already outgrown simply because someone suddenly notices your absence. And most importantly, never mistake your silence for weakness. Sometimes silence is where your strength becomes clear. August 24th is about recognizing that you have already crossed the bridge into a new chapter. You do not need to go back and explain why. You already know who you are. And that may be the truth that finally becomes impossible for others to ignore.